The Watcher in the Woods. Lena had always been deeply drawn to the profound tranquility of the forest. When she moved to her new home, a quaint cottage nestled on the very edge of a sprawling, ancient woodland, she found immediate solace in its silent, embracing presence. Daily walks became her sacred ritual, a cherished way to clear her mind, to escape the lingering anxieties and pressures of city life. The towering trees, their canopies forming a majestic cathedral, the dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves, the rich scent of pine and damp earth. It was her sanctuary, her personal refuge. One crisp autumn afternoon, as she ventured deeper than usual along a seldom-used deer trail, a path barely visible, she noticed a figure among the trees. It was indistinct at first, almost part of the shifting shadows, blending seamlessly with the environment. But as she squinted, she made out the form of a man. He was standing perfectly still, unnaturally rigid, partially obscured by a thick, ancient oak. He wasn't walking, wasn't moving, wasn't engaged in any activity. He was just watching her. A shiver, not from the cold autumn air, but from an internal dread, ran down her spine. Unnerved, she quickened her pace, her heart beginning to thump a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She didn't dare look back, but the pervasive feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes piercing her back, lingered like a cold, phantom touch on her skin. She told herself it was just a hiker, taking a rest. But hikers moved. They acknowledged others. This man had been a statue, unnervingly still. Days turned into weeks, and the figure appeared more frequently. Always at a distance, always silent, always watching. Sometimes she'd only catch a fleeting glimpse, a flicker of movement from the extreme corner of her eye, but the presence was undeniable, a constant, unsettling companion. It was never the same spot, but always just within her peripheral vision, just beyond clear, definitive sight. The figure began to consume her thoughts, eroding her peace. She found herself constantly scanning the tree line, anticipating, dreading its appearance. Her peaceful, restorative walks became anxious, hurried treks. She confided in her neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who had lived in the village her entire life, a repository of local lore. Mrs. Thompson's face paled visibly as Lena described the figure. "Child," she whispered, her voice tight with an old, deeply ingrained fear. "You must stay away from those woods after dusk. Years ago, a man went missing in those very woods. John Hemlock. They searched for weeks, but his body was never found. The locals, they say his spirit lingers, watching, waiting, forever." The story chilled Lena to the bone, a cold dread seeping into her very core. A missing man, a watchful, silent spirit. It fit perfectly. The figure was always silent, always still, always there, determined to confront her fears, or perhaps to simply break free from the suffocating paranoia that was consuming her. Lena decided she would go back. Not during the day, not when it was safe and bright, but at dusk, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and bleeding orange. Casting long, distorted shadows, Lena re-entered the woods, a profound sense of trepidation accompanying her. The air grew heavy, thick with an unnatural stillness that pressed in on her. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Every shadow stretched and twisted, taking on grotesque, menacing forms in the fading light. She walked slowly, deliberately, her senses on high alert, every nerve ending screaming. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming now, a physical pressure on her skin, a tangible presence. Then he emerged, closer than ever before, standing directly on the path, barely 20 feet ahead. It was a man, tall and gaunt, dressed in dark, worn clothing that seemed to absorb the light. His face was completely obscured by shadow, a featureless void, but she could feel his eyes on her, a cold, empty stare that stole her breath, freezing her in place. He made no sound, no movement, just stood there, a silent sentinel of the encroaching night, an unmoving statue of dread. Summoning every ounce of courage she possessed, every last shred of her resolve, Lena's voice cracked as she spoke, a fragile sound in the vast silence. "Who are you?" The figure remained silent, motionless. But then, slowly, agonizingly slowly, he raised an arm. A skeletal finger, long and thin, pointed directly behind her. Lena's blood ran cold, turning to ice in her veins. She knew, she absolutely knew, with a primal, instinctual certainty, that the figure in front of her was not the one she should fear. The true terror was behind her, the one that had been watching her, following her, all along, the one that the silent watcher was warning her about. Without a second thought, without daring to look back, Lena turned and ran. She ran with a desperate, raw energy she didn't know she possessed, her lungs burning, her legs pumping, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The familiar scent of damp earth and pine needles now felt suffocating, each branch that whipped past her face a stinging reminder of her desperate flight. The forest, once her sanctuary, had transformed into a labyrinth of menacing shadows and unseen threats. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, every distant hoot of an owl, becoming a terrifying confirmation that something was gaining on her, something unseen, something predatory. She could feel its presence, a cold, suffocating dread pressing in on her from all sides, a palpable weight on her back, a chilling certainty that the very air around her was now tainted by its unseen pursuit. She burst out of the tree line, stumbling onto the familiar paved road leading to her cottage, gasping for air, her body trembling uncontrollably. Her muscles screamed in protest, but a deeper, more primal instinct propelled her forward. She didn't stop until she was inside. The door slammed shut with a final echoing thud, locked and bolted, her back pressed against the cold wood, tears streaming down her face, mingling with the sweat and grime. She peered through the peephole, her breath fogging the glass, her vision blurring. The road was empty. The forest stood silent, dark, and menacing, its secrets once again swallowed by the night, an impenetrable wall of shadow that seemed to mock her fragile sense of security. Lena never returned to the woods. The cottage, once a haven of peace and solitude, now felt like a fragile, vulnerable shell, a thin barrier against the encroaching darkness. Every night, she double-checked the locks, not once, but repeatedly, her fingers tracing the cold metal as if to reassure herself of their strength. She drew the curtains tight, blocking out not just the moonlight, but the very idea of the outside world. She slept with the lights on, the artificial glow a meager defense against the terrors that now populated her mind. She knew, deep in her soul, with an unsettling clarity that the watcher in the woods had saved her, had given her a warning. But she also knew that whatever he was warning her about, whatever truly lurked in the depths of that ancient forest, was still out there, waiting. And sometimes, when the wind howled just right, or the shadows danced in a peculiar way on her walls, she could almost hear that faint, high-pitched whistle. No longer a warning, but a chilling reminder that some things, once seen, can never be unseen, and some fears, once awakened, can never truly be put to rest, becoming permanent residents in the deepest chambers of the mind.